So sucking us into wars we're not part of, kind of like World War
Right.
II. What's your opinion on that? I saw you were heavily criticized for saying the bad guys won World War II.
Well, that's a categorical fact. Yeah. I mean,
Can you elaborate a little bit? Because I feel like that's something that who was that? That was the Martyr Made guy that went on Tucker Carlson, and he basically took that position. He was a very well-read historian, and that's the position he took, and he got a lot of pushback for that. And
yeah, I mean, because we have all these sort of legacy narratives and
Indoctrinations.
sentimental stories. You go to the seventh grade and you got Mr. Shapansky was my world history teacher, and he gives you that standard textbook, and you crack it open, and there's World War I and World War II, and my dad and my granddad and my great granddad have World War II medals, and we should honor all of that. It's not a comment about the soldiers or their sacrifice. What it is an acknowledgement of the ideologies that led to those wars and the institutions that sprung from them. When they say democracy now, they're talking about type A and type B democracy. Type A democracy is of the people, by the people, for the people. When they say democracy, they're talking about the democratic institutions that sprang out of post-World War II politics. And those institutions, they say, are too important, too big, too dangerous to even challenge. You can't even challenge these institutions. And so I say that because part of that cover story, part of that ideology, part of that indoctrination is we're not even going to talk about the fact that the Russian allies we fought with in World War II were a definitive communist nation.
Well, I mean,
how do we just skip that?
Well, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. I mean, they had, Holocausted, genocided, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
20, 30 million Christians. And
yeah, amen,
and
sir.
nobody mentions
that. Yes, they
that.
did.
Nobody mentions that.
Never. They never mention it.
But why are those the guys that we decided to become allies with? I mean, to me, what he had done prior to World War II was worse than anything that happened in World War II. Whether you acknowledge the rhetoric or the programming or whatever you've been taught about World War II, let's say 6 million Jews died in World War II. That's still, what, a third, a fourth of what happened previously to Christians? Yep. Why does nobody give a shit about that? Why do we partner?
Well, it's obvious. I think it's obvious why nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, the Bolshevik Revolution, it was 80% Jewish, right?
Yes.
And so,
Well, yes, you could say that. That's for sure. Well, that's definitely a part of it. But the bigger issue is that communism, since its inception, Karl Marx was, and here's where I say that you do have to make some distinction between the Orthodox Jewish community and secular Jewish community. Number one, the Orthodox Jewish community, they vote Donald Trump 85% in 2020. Okay, so the Orthodox Jews do not feel the same as secular Jews on many issues, Israel being one of them, but also this issue as well. The root of communism, Karl Marx, is a rejection of God and religion fundamentally, even his own religion, even Judaism, Orthodox Judaism. So of course, a blossoming of communism as a state ideology would go after Christians. That doesn't seem shocking at all. That's just like 1 + 1 = 2. What's scary about it is we have a modern day American public that doesn't even realize, like if you go and ask the average person on the street, do you realize that the Allied forces were really an alliance with straight up communism? People don't even know that. They don't even remember. I mean, it went down the memory hole.
Genocidal communism, not just communism.
And yes.
I mean, you got.
They don't even know that a million Christians were genocided. That was never talked about in the first place, though.
Yeah, the
right.
My
point is,
never talks about that. I mean, it's just, to me, I look at all the atrocities that were committed, and when they're committed on Christians, nobody gives a shit. And why is that? It's
who controls the media, probably.
Yeah, and then who controls what's being fed to the school system, and why is the school system now being fucking poisoned with this transgender bullshit? I look at what's going on and people that are pushing the problems that are happening today, and I just can't ignore the fact that it's almost always Jewish, and everybody says that's anti-Semitic, and it's just like, okay, fuck you, I don't care.
Well, there's no there. I don't. I've been criticized many times, and I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing out. The when people self-identify as a thing, whatever that thing may be, it's never wrong to then go back and identify them as that thing when they transgress against other people. That just seems like a racket of unbelievable proportions.
I mean, I
that
just
is
think it's
the
all
racket.
fucking bullshit. I mean, I don't even think the Jews are Semites. I mean, 80% of the Palestinians have actual ancient Hebrew DNA. Like 97% of the Jews in Palestine do not have ancient Hebrew DNA. So if you want to talk about like actual Semites, it's the Palestinians right now. So they want to use this word anytime they get attacked, and I just don't agree. Like I don't think they're in a victim category. I'm not going to cut them any fucking slack. They are overrepresented in every single fucking category. They're crushing it across the board, and not just a little bit. I mean, I'm talking about like 3,500% overrepresented in categories. And we're talking about government, we're talking about banks, we're talking about media, we're talking about Hollywood, we're talking about all the important positions in America. They're massively overrepresented. So they're not in a fucking victim category in my eyes in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think it's like the very top elite. They work kind of like a mafia.
I just reject the idea that they need their own word, anti-Semitism, to protect them.
Right? No one else has their own word for
No,
racism.
they're not fucking victims, and they don't get their own fucking word.
No, how anti-Semitism is used is beyond disgusting, in my opinion. What I will say, though, is the Jews have been used, and all the Jews in the world are not responsible for the actions of a few. And I know this to be true because look at the black community. I mean, people could be just as mad as what the black community has become, or what has become of black communities in this country. And you could point to a very few select black elite leaders who have sold us out or certainly contributed to the position or the culture of black America.
How could you say that, though? Like, who could you say the black leaders would be responsible? Because to me, I look at like the welfare system, the fact that they're being incentivized single mothers to have kids, which is a #1 cause of crime, is being in a household that has no father. So I look at that. I look at the cultural issues. I look at the drugs and who gets prosecuted.
How do you think the culture got that way?
What's that? Well, that's my point. I don't think it was the black people that made the culture that way. That's what I'm saying.
Shit. Well, here I know what you're saying, but I'll tell you this: there is no deal that was done where any Jewish elite executive businessman in the music industry or entertainment business didn't flood music or culture into the black communities without there being a black bourgeoisie sellout go-between.
Yeah, I mean, but those are always easy to find, right? People are gonna, they're gonna fold.
But you can't.
Money.
But you can't say they're not culpable too.
Yeah,
they're culpable.
Well.
I mean, okay, so who's? Yeah, I guess.
I'm not buying. Come on, Dan. We ain't doing that.
You leave $100,000 on the table and you invite a bunch of poor guys into the room.
But my point. But that's my point. My point is, if you look at it at the granular level, as a cultural analysis or even a spiritual analysis, what you have to conclude is when people have a godless culture or a godless community or society, you are susceptible to taking easy money and cutting deals with Satan. And when you have sacred honor, when you have real sacred honor, it doesn't, like me, for example, I turned down hundreds of millions of dollars from the NBA, some of the execs of which are very successful and very powerful, influential Jewish businessmen. But I sat in a room with them and they offered me as much money as you could possibly get reasonably as a 21-year-old basketball player. And I told them they could keep the money. Now, I can't say the same for many of my black counterparts in this country or anywhere around the world. And it's not just black people. All around the world, whatever the Jewish, the Jewish elite in the financial sector, in the legal sector, in military and government, wherever they have cut deals and been involved in deals, which there have been many, there have always been people and cultures of other ethnicities and nations to sign those deals.
People taking the APAC money, like your opponent.
Yeah, I mean,
so, and I'm not saying they're not guilty.
Yeah.
I'm just saying when you sign that dotted line, you become guilty too.
I get it, but who's worse, the devil that is tempting the person or the person that gets tempted by the devil?
Well, actually, that's a very interesting theological question.
Well, think about that for a second. I mean, who's worse, the devil that's offering the fruit or the person that takes it because they're hungry?
The devil is a category of his own for sure. But in this analysis, in this example, the Jews would actually would be
of the synagogue
being
of Satan.
tempted by the devil too, right?
Well, maybe not. I mean,